Hello, it's Emily Moorhouse-Aires here from Healthscape, and I'm just going to talk to you today about the different health types. So here's the PH360 wheel with the 6 main health types here. Now, just to keep in mind, there are over 8 billion people on this planet, and every single person is different and is unique. So there are, I suppose, over 8 billion health types. But that makes it a little bit too hard to teach and explain. So what we do is we talk about the 6 main health types and the kind of trends that tend to occur in these different health types. So just keep that in mind when I'm talking through the health types, that you will find in your profile all of the information specifically for you, because we're not all one thing. We will always have elements of other health types and things in there as well. So there's so much more factored into it in your personalized profile, but it is really interesting to understand the trends that do come across quite strongly for all the different health types, and to see the contrast of things across the wheel as well. It just helps us bring more understanding of ourselves, but also more understanding of the people around us as well. It's very interesting stuff. Now, I could talk about each of the health types for about an hour each. I'm going to try and do it in about a couple of minutes for each, which is going to be difficult. But pretty much I wanted to just give you a few key points and a few key things that I want you to take away. So the activator is a pure mesomorph. Now, if you think about the mesoderm layer in embryological development, that's where all of the tissues of movement are created. So it makes sense. So that's things like the fascia and the muscle and the bone and the red blood cells and the heart, the adrenals and things as well. So it makes sense that activators are made to move. They're natural athletes, and they're also, if you think of the big cat, which is the animal that we use for the activator, they're made to move fast. They're sprinters. They're explosive. They tend to do really short bursts of energy at high intensity. So they go hard and then rest hard. So the cat would sprint off after its prey, and then it would relax in the sun and rest afterwards. So if you think of the big cat there as well, when you think of movement, it's not kind of gentle movement. It's kind of an aggressive, powerful movement, and that's what we really want to think of there. So challenge, competition, and aggression is something that we can sometimes see come into play with the activator, and a lot of this is to do with the higher levels of testosterone that activators naturally have during adolescence. And it also is why they tend to have a slightly shorter stature and more defined muscle, and particularly the shorter leg bone that is from having higher amounts of testosterone during adolescence. Talking about the short bursts of energy at higher intensity that kind of go hard, rest hard, there's a real on-off nature with an activator. And that's not just with exercise, but that's for everything in their lifestyle. It's just a key thing that we want to keep in mind. So even in terms of their mind, they do really well going hard on a task and then having a break and doing something else. Okay, so I've talked about testosterone, but another key hormone for the activator is adrenaline. Remember that the adrenal glands were developed in that layer of the embryo as well. And so they're really good with acute stress, but they're not good with chronic stress. So they're made to be fast and to react to danger, or to be able to mobilize their body for action really, really fast. But they need to rest after. As I've said, if they keep going and going and going and going without rest, they will burn out. They're not well suited for chronic stress, which is why, and adrenaline also, the high levels of adrenaline is also why change, variety, and kind of even risk taking can be quite important for activators. They have a need to express. In Ayurvedic medicine, this body type is seen as the fiery type. They've got a lot of natural heat, but they also they like to speak their mind. They can sometimes come across as a little bit blunt, but it's just really important for them to get off their chest what they're feeling and express. In the same sort of line, though, they're quite impulsive. They act first and think later. So if you think of that wild cat, you hear a rustle in the bushes, it's not going to stop and think oh, what's that? It's just going to go. It goes on instinct. And that's what activators are like. They're quite reactive and impulsive, and they're just made to do and to move. Again, look at the wild cat there licking its lips. These are the people that can get quite hangry. They have fast metabolisms, and yeah, they do a lot of movement and exercise. So they need to eat quite frequently, and they eat quite a lot. And if they don't, they tend to, everyone tends to know about it. They get hangry, and they do really well with animal protein. They really love the sunshine. There can be a tendency to do really well in a hot, dry climate. Not usually that good with a lot of wind or at high altitude, and can get seasonal affected, be prone to getting seasonal affective disorder. So yeah, sunshine is really important for them. The paradox for an activator is that they go, go, go. They're always on the go, but they need to rest in order to not burn out. So have a think of people that you know that kind of fit this general theme. Next up, we have the diplomat. Now, this is the endo-ecto mix, and the animal that we use is the buffalo. Now, when you look at a buffalo, you think really strong and steady. They also have a bit of a herd mentality, so even though they're really strong and independent and can look after themselves in their own right, they tend to travel and do things as a herd, and the family and community is also extremely important for a diplomat. And again, the diplomat's not like the big wild cats sprinting all over the place at a very fast pace. They're a little bit more slow and steady. And that kind of theme goes through for everything for a diplomat. So in terms of exercise, in terms of their mind, in terms of the pace of the day, slow and steady is what tends to work really well for their body, and they need a slower start to the day. They're not early birds. They also need lots of time and space. And to be on their own plan and time frame. So they're people that love to plan ahead, and they don't really like it when problems arise or things get chucked in their way, or someone tells them to do things that, impulsively that they didn't know. So you can see there's quite a contrast between the fast-paced kind of change of variety activators and the slow, steady, need a plan diplomats. So it's quite interesting. So activators, they, as I've said, that they kind of act first and think later. They're very impulsive and reactive. Diplomats are sort of the opposite. They think first and then they act later. What can happen though, I mean, it's good that they take time to think, but what can happen is that they can kind of think and think and think and think and actually not take action. And that's something else that sort of they have in common with the buffalo, that the tendency for rumination or procrastination. The key hormone for the diplomat is serotonin, and this is the pleasure-seeking hormone, and they are very sensitive to serotonin. They're often slightly low in serotonin, but they also can be high. They're just very sensitive to any imbalances or fluctuations in that hormone. So it's a reason why they're wary of not committing energy to things, because they need to not fail. So that's another reason why they take time to think about what they do, because they want to make sure that when they do it, that it's the right thing for them and it's the right use of the energy. So if you think of the embryological development, that being the endo-ecto mix, you can see that they have the endo influence there, where they have that kind of real idea of that empathy and that kind of community and family feel, where they're great at seeing things from all views. So they're truly diplomatic. Whereas the ecto, remember in the layer of the ectoderm, that's where the central nervous system or the brain is developed. So they have a very strong mind and a very logical brain. So it's a very, very good mix of traits there. And also from that embryological development, you can see that they kind of get the bigger bulk, the bigger mass of body through the endo influence, but they often get the height from the ecto. So these guys, or girls, can be some of the biggest people on the planet. They're often tall and they're muscular and have bigger bones. Now, because they have a longer digestive tract, they actually, and they have that kind of slow, steady pace. They've got a slower metabolism naturally. They don't need to eat a huge amount, and they need more time in between meals. Lunch is the biggest meal of the day for a diplomat, and they need lots and lots of vegetables. Particularly, they need a lot of magnesium. They do really well out in nature. They need lots of fresh flowing air, and slight humidity is often good for them. And the paradox for diplomats is that their tendency to ruminate when they're low in serotonin. So they get that analysis paralysis, that idea that they think too much and don't act. Okay, the Crusader. So this is the ecto-meso mix, and we use the racehorse as the animal for the Crusader. Now, when you look at the racehorse here, do you see how they have their blinders on? They've got that tunnel vision. They're focused on the finish line and nothing else matters. And this is what we can tend to see with a Crusader. They tend to be on a mission. They tend to be very goal focused. And they'll just work really hard to that end. They'll have that kind of tunnel vision, and sometimes they can even forget kind of basic needs or other people, and can sometimes have a tendency to be seen as insensitive because of that. But really, all they are is they're just really focused on the things that are important to them and onto their mission. And the reason for this is that they have high levels of dopamine, or that's sort of their dominant hormone. And dopamine is the hormone, people think of it as a reward hormone, but really what it is, it's the motivation to get to the reward. It keeps them going and going and going. So all those little kind of checklists, yep, I've done that, I'm getting closer to my goal. This is what gives them the dopamine hit. So for a Crusader, it's really important to have a kind of purpose and a mission in life, and something that you want to achieve. So as I say, they're the ecto-meso mix. So the ecto element, that's where they have the really logical, powerful brain. Things need to make sense for them. They really need to understand the whys, and they like things to be efficient and productive, again, because they're on their mission. They can also be prone to stiffness or rigidity, and this can be physically in their body, but also in their mind as well. So spinal stretching and yoga can be useful. And the meso element is the movement. So like activators, they are natural athletes, but instead of the short, sharp kind of exercise, they're really good at endurance events. So, and they're particularly good ones that have a consistent movement pattern, like running, cycling, hiking, or swimming. They're the ones that do all these long ultra marathons, and they kind of get that runner's high. They can just sort of get into the swing of things. And in fact, when they do that, they can kind of actually relax and switch off their brain, and it's actually quite good for them. They do well in a warm, moist environment, not great in too much wind or at high altitude, and they need lots of fresh air and sun. And the paradox for a Crusader is their mind is always on and always working to achieve their goals, but they need to rest their mind to become more efficient and productive. All right, the Guardian. This is the pure endomorph build, so developed through that layer of the endoderm. And the animal we use is the bear. So if you think of a bear there, they're strong, they're stable, they're sturdy, and they're also extremely nurturing of their young. And you can kind of see these things come across in the physique. They're a bigger physique naturally, the strongest physique. They have thicker joints naturally, a bigger bone structure, bigger, stronger muscle more naturally, and they'll naturally hold a little bit more adipose or fat tissue. Their dominant hormone is prolactin. Now, prolactin is the nurturing hormone. So if you think of breastfeeding, that's obviously prolactin. We think of breastfeeding, and that's, I suppose, the ultimate in nurturing and giving our energy away to our little ones, giving all of our nutrients away, and expecting nothing in return apart from cleaning some diapers and maybe cleaning up some vomit. So Guardians often have higher levels, this male and female have higher levels of prolactin. So family is really, really important to them. They tend to do things for others more than themselves. They also, because they're used to looking after their family and the community, and that's really important to them, and they like to their body naturally conserves energy so that it can give to others. They have that conservation type metabolism, which is why often guardians will struggle with weight issues. It's a natural protection mechanism for them to conserve so that they can look after those around them. Now, obviously, that would have been in times of famine. Now that we're in times of plenty, we don't need that physiological aspect so much, which is why we can use that information to kind of help guardians. But the key thing is that they just have this huge strength, and they also need security. So because they're wanting to look after the community and their family is so important for them, their basic needs, so shelter, money, finances, family, these things are really important to them. If there are stresses or issues going on in this area of their life, then that will affect their body, and that will affect their health a lot. So getting those things right first, getting them their body feeling safe, then they can do other things. Because they are developed more through the endoderm, which is where all the digestive organs are. They have a larger and longer digestive tract. They have a slower transit time. So again, they don't need to have a huge number of meals in a day. And their biggest meal at lunchtime is ideal, and also a more vegetarian diet. Because they're such strong people and their bodies actually love to feel strong, resistance training or weight training can be really ideal. What this does is that it allows the body to feel strong and feel safe, but it can actually lose weight or lose adipose tissue, fat tissue, and still feel safe. So weight training is a really good thing for guardians. They have the largest lungs naturally, so getting lots of fresh air is important, and that movement through circulation through the young lungs. They tend to overheat easier because they have that higher body mass, so cooler temperatures are often better for them, and they may like forested and lightly moist environments. And saying that too, they're very adaptable. The paradox for a guardian is that they focus on everyone else, but they need to fill their own cup to be able to look after those that they love. Okay, the connector. This is the meso-endo mix, and we use the puppy dog, the cute little puppy dog, for the connectors. So if you think of a puppy, they're fun, they love receiving attention, all about kind of bonding, they're very loyal, they process out loud, woof, 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 they make a lot of noise, and that's what connectors do. They process through talking and communicating. They get a lot of energies from others, so think of puppy dogs running around, chasing the balls that you've thrown or doing everything. They get energy from being around you, and connectors are the same. Same thing, puppy dogs and connectors can both get easily distracted. They're kind of off, 1 second they're off chasing the stick, and the next second, oh, what's that over here? Oh, what's that over there? So, and as you can see there, that connection and the community and the others around them is so important for a connector. And that is because their dominant hormone is oxytocin, and it's all about bonding and trust and connection. So what we tend to find is that connectors will often flit around and try and make lots of connections with other people to get a release of oxytocin. But what they really need is like a few just deeper, really good, deep friendships and connections. Is really, really important for their health. They love giving and receiving affection. They need to feel special and light. Now, this isn't a bad thing. This is the way their body is, and what's important for them to be happy and to be healthy, and to have their dominant hormones doing their things. So they're positive, friendly, and fun, but they can wear a mask. So because they're these sort of positive, friendly, fun, they love identifying with that as well. They don't like to share when they're not feeling like that. So they'll tend to retreat into themselves a little bit more when they're not feeling that way, so that they can just sort of come back out and be out in public again when they are feeling good again. So that, again, that's another reason why it's really important for them to have those deep connections and true friend connections with people where they can just share and be themselves, even when they're not feeling in a great space. They tend to use the visual cortex of their brain, so they're visual processors. They're extremely empathetic and they're good at reading other people. They have the resilient body that comes from that endoderm, but they also have the they have that kind of need for movement, and they're good at movement. The meso, so they can do a lot of exercise. They can tolerate more volume of exercise than an activator, and because they have that slight conservation type metabolism of the endomorph, they will need to do more exercise to make change. They enjoy a warm, dry climate. Same as activators, they can be prone to seasonal affective disorder. They're particularly affected by kind of gloomy, dreary days. It can tend to affect their mood quite a bit. And the paradox for them is that they want change fast, but it takes longer for them to change physically. The reason they want change fast is because their mind is very adaptable and can change fast, but physically it will take them a little bit longer. Okay, and the sensor, which is the pure ectomorph. Now, if you think of the bird, which is the animal that we use for the sensor, if you think of the hummingbird here, you can see that it's a light frame, sort of fragile, it's slender build, but look, its wings are just going a million miles an hour, and that's almost kind of like what the brain does of a sensor. They're very hyper aware, and you can see down in this picture down here that if you're the big buffalo, if you get a knock from something, you're not going to care. You're big and strong. It's not going to bother you. Yeah, if you were this bird here and you got knocked by those buffalo, you could break a wing or you could be killed. So it's very important for the survival of this bird to be very aware of its environment and to use its brain to keep itself safe. And that's kind of similar to what happens for a sensor. They get what's called this biological fear, which is where they it's protection through attentiveness. So pretty much through using all these senses and using their brain and being aware of everything around them, they can keep themselves safe. What that does mean, though, is it means that their brain is on the whole time. Also, like the bird, they're efficient. They're very logical and linear and methodical. Having being the pure ecto, they have a very powerful brain, and as I was saying, powerful senses. They also have less muscle bulk and digestive power because they don't have as much influence through the endoderm and the mesoderm, so they're a smaller body. The strength is in their mind. They're really good at processing data, logic, systems, and they're sequential. They also tend to be more monogamous, so they're committed to one task, to one rule, to one person, and this is because this comes down. Has to do with the dominant hormone or neurotransmitter, which is vasopressin, which also has a relationship to kind of blood pressure and fluid as well. They tend to be more introverted, so opposite to the connector, who needs lots of people and kind of thrive on being around people. The sensor, they get the energy from having some alone time, and they're quite independent. So talking about before that they have less digestive power, they can often, especially when under stress, they can have poor digestion and poor circulation. So having warm foods and slow cooked meats in particular, or proteins, is really useful to help with digestion. Keeping warm is just the key thing for them. Because they like to be warm, they enjoy a hot and humid, moist and climate like the tropics. So an island holiday in the tropics would be perfect for them on holiday. And the paradox for a sensor is that in order to be safe, they need to sense everything around them, like I explained at the start. But they need to stop sensing to save themselves, otherwise they'll burn out. So that's why they enjoy having some time by themselves and that kind of sensory deprivation, to allow their brain and their senses to just shut off a little bit. It's really healing and good for a sensor. So I hope you've found that useful and you've now got a little bit more of an understanding of the different health types. Thanks very much.